Today I'm gonna teach you how to sell your shit on Depop and Poshmark. A little birdie told me that you have some clothes you need to get rid of. I've been selling the things I don't need on Poshmark and Depop successfully for 3 years. By the way, if you're wanting to get into selling on Depop and Poshmark to make a profit, this is not really the video for you because I'm just talking about breaking even. I just wanna get rid of my items and not lose money on that process. So first of all, why Poshmark? Why Depop? I've been selling on both platforms for a long time and I like them both for very different reasons. Depop has a really strong algorithm, so your items, if they're trending or what have you, they will be suggested to real actual users because Depop has kind of like a For You page. Poshmark technically does, but it's not as good in my opinion. But the thing I like about Poshmark is that I think there are a lot more users and the users of Poshmark vary in age groups a lot more. Mostly young people are on Depop. So if you post on both Depop and Poshmark, basically you'll be covering a lot of different people. Personally, I'm a little bit more successful on Poshmark, but Depop is also great. I really like both. Other platforms I've tried are Mercari. I liked Mercari, but there just aren't as many people on Mercari, like on the reg. I feel like Poshmark is like the place to like sell your clothes, and then Depop is kind of like the frowned upon like reseller zone. Both have their spaces, you know? And I haven't really tried selling anywhere else, but there are a lot of different ways you can sell your clothes. And this isn't really that because I'm smart about Depop and Poshmark and that's it. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. The reason why I choose to sell my secondhand items that I don't need anymore instead of throwing them away or donating them is because the majority of the things that you donate do end up in the landfills. I don't never donate, like I'm not totally against it, but when someone purchases an item off of you, even if they only spend $3 on it, in this economy, they care enough to hold on to it. Like it could end up in the landfill eventually, but you're literally directly sending your item to a person who wants it. So it's more likely to be treasured. It's less likely to go into landfill. Something like 70% of the items that are donated end up in landfills. And there are different ways of donation, of course, like donating to Goodwill is not the same as like donating to women's shelters. But I do also just want to say that if you do choose to donate an item, please don't donate things that are like stained with biohazard stains or like really heavily stained or covered in a lot of holes that makes it impossible to wear. Don't donate trash. Don't donate things that nobody wants to buy, and don't list things on Poshmark or Depop that nobody wants to buy. So step number 1, gather the items you want to get rid of and decide which is worth selling. If you're not sure if your item is worth selling, a great thing you can check is you can go onto Poshmark and search for your exact item and sort it by what has sold. Scroll through and see if that item has sold before and what it has sold for. You also have to think about the condition of your item, the quality of your item. If your item is covered in stains that won't come out, it's probably not going to sell. There are multiple things you can do with fabrics that aren't going to sell. You can reuse this fabric. Like if you have something really stained where the stain is not going to come out, you can wash the item and then cut it up into pieces and use the fabric pieces as washcloths, for example. There are a lot of different things you can do than selling your items. There has to be a market for your item. To put it simply, there have to be people that want to buy it. So once you've sorted your items and you've decided the fate of each of your items, which by the way, you're also going to learn over time, the more that you sell the items that you don't need, you will figure out what your pricing needs to be and what items are worth selling. Like it'll humble you, but you kind of just got to learn as you go. Let's break down what breaking even really means. Let's say you thrift an item from Goodwill for $5. Let's say you try it on at home and it doesn't work out, or maybe 6 months have passed, you've changed sizes and it doesn't fit anymore. You're going to want to sell it, right? You might be inclined to list it for $5 if you just want to break even, but then you will be losing money. First of all, both Depop and Poshmark take out some money on your items. Poshmark takes out a percentage of your sales. Depop just takes out taxes. That does end up affecting your earnings on both platforms. So on Depop, you would make more like $4, and on Poshmark, you would make like $3 on a $5 item that you sold. So obviously you're already losing money there. So how about you adjust it to $7? You sell it for $7 and you make exactly $5. Then you're breaking even, right? You're actually not. There are a lot of aspects of selling on Poshmark and Depop that cost money. For example, I like to use cute bubble mailers, and those are about $1 a piece. So I have to add that in my mind. Also, printing is not free and packing tape is not free. Those are like the main, most necessary expenses for selling on Depop and Poshmark. In which case, selling the item for about $9, so you make about $7, might work. That would be breaking even, right? But then you're losing money on your time. Your time is worth some money. It takes me about 30 minutes to photograph each item and upload it on both Poshmark and Depop. So I'm not gonna pay myself minimum wage for that time because then I would be selling my items for way too much money because I also want my items to be really like accessible. So for example, let me just price this item really quick right here, right now. This is a shirt that says Orange County Choppers and it's from 2003 and it has this really cool motorcycle design. I really liked this shirt, but then I realized it's not really my style and I thrifted it for $6.99. I plan on listing it for $15, which means I will make about $12 to $13 on it, which means not only will I get paid back for the money I spent on the item originally, but that will cover the costs of printing and bubble mailers, and it'll also pay me a few extra dollars for my time for driving it it to the post office, for taking photos of it, and for listing it. The more you can speed up the process of taking photos and listing the item, the better it'll be for you financially. But think about it like this, you do not want to lose money on this, and your time is worth at least a little bit of money. So you might think me a reseller. I don't really think me a reseller because my goal isn't to make money. I'm not making money. Making money would be listing it for like $35 or something. But then again, it's not really gonna sell for that much. It's kind of like a tricky balance of how much are my items worth realistically, how much do people realistically want to spend on it, and also how much do I want to pay myself for my own time and for the resources needed to actually sell my items on Depop and Poshmark. Okay, let's go into the fun part, taking photos. So today it is really sunny outside, which is bad news. It's good news for my mental health, but it's bad news for selling on Depop and Poshmark. Photography in general, obviously there are some caveats, but in general, best in shady lighting or cloudy. A cloudy day is perf. So even if it's a really sunny day, find yourself a patch of shade to take your photos on, and on the ground is totally fine. Find yourself a very pretty piece of fabric. A lot of people use like sheets. Lay something down to place your clothes on top of. Set yourself up kind of like a picnic vibe with all your clothes and with your phone to take photos. This is how I take photos, by the way. There are a lot of different ways to take photos, just like there are a lot of different ways to do all of this stuff. This is how I do it. I used to take photos just on the concrete, but then I realized that if I were buying from that seller, I would be a little bit wary about items that have been on the floor, because it might just point to like the seller not being very sanitary with everything they do. Oh my gosh, I recently saw this video on Instagram Reels, y'all, of this Depop seller showing that their apartment has a bunch of clothes on the floor and everything, and that's what they're selling on Depop. It's scary, y'all. Don't do that. Moving on. Find yourself some shade, find yourself a cool piece of fabric. The cool piece of fabric can really help market your stuff. Seriously, like cool backgrounds can really help. Front and back is pretty standard. Like if you're taking a photo of the front and the back of like a shirt or something, that usually works. Also, I really like to add a try-on pic if I can. If it fits on my body, I'll add a try-on pic just because it's nice to see how fabric lays. If you do provide try-on pics, also provide your own measurements so that your buyers can compare. Or you could get a mannequin. I do own a mannequin and I do honestly really like it. It is super helpful for stuff like this. And y'all know I take in a lot of thrifted clothing. So if I don't wear it in like 3 months, I end up selling it for cheap because that is how I do not become a hoarder. Literally, sometimes y'all ask me like, you're thrifting all the time. How do you not become a hoarder? Because I'm cycling through clothing pretty quickly. Not only does my body change on the regular, but I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to clothing. Also, you should be providing measurements of the item. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this, but the way I like to do it is to just measure it and take a photo of the measuring tape on the item. Make sure the numbers are very readable, and that's basically all you need to do. It saves you a lot of time when you're actually listing the item, like on the phone doing the beep boop beep bop post, because then you don't have to type out the measurements. You can just say refer to the measurements in photos. This also will kind of save your ass if someone receives an item from you and is like, well, you said it was a 26-inch waist, but I'm measuring a 25-inch waist. Then it's kind of all hearsay. Who's right, you know? But if you actually take a photo of the measuring tape, it's hard to argue with that, you know? You probably won't get as many fraudulent return requests. So as for measurements, if you're getting a shirt, basically all you need to do is pit to pit and length. You can also do length of sleeve, you can do width of sleeve, but those are extra. I usually don't bother with those unless people specifically request them. And with skirts, waist and length should be fine unless they are super structured, like a leather skirt or something, super bodycon, then I would also do hip. For pants, you need waist, rise, hip, and inseam. Provide all of those measurements and you will get a lot more sales. Okay, I need to charge my battery real quick. Sorry, I actually ended up uploading all of those items. Look how pretty it looks. That's what you get. It's the zebra fabric. It literally does everything. The aesthetic is there. So while it's on my mind, here are a couple other photo tips I wanted to share with you. One, they want to see a photo of the tag. Do take a photo of the tag. Two, obviously take a close-up photo if there are any flaws, but then also mention them in the description just to cover your ass. Okay, so you've taken your photos, find the most aesthetically pleasing one and put it at the front. Now you have to write your description. Describe the item, say what size it is, say what size you recommend it for. If you tried on the item, then put your measurements. If you have a mannequin that you tried the item on, then put the mannequin's measurements. If you want, you can use some big marketing words like Y2K. Please only do that if your item is from, like, verifiably from the 2000s. So like the year 2000 to 2010, I feel like that's fair game. Don't call your item vintage unless it is 20 years old or older. Use new with tags if it's new with tags. Dead stock. You can use the word dead stock if it is vintage and new with tags. Dead stock doesn't actually mean that, but it's become really watered down, and that's basically what it means on Depop and Poshmark, so you can use it like that. There are certain aesthetics that are kind of trending that you can put in there. Clean girl, model off duty, fairy core, kid core, nostalgia core, Twilight, Murray Corey Gilmore, grunge, mogoth, punk, biker core. The opportunities are endless. Before you use any of those tags, just like go on Pinterest and search up the aesthetic and get a general vibe for it just to make sure you're not being completely ridiculous. Don't stress too much about the description. Just make sure it's accurate and post it. Once your item has sold, ship it out as soon as possible. I like to use cute little bubble mailers, but use whatever you want, you know, it's about recycling. So if you have any loser box or whatever, you can get rid of it that way, that's fine. You can wrap it in tissue paper if you want to be really fancy. You can add some stickers in the package if you want to be really fancy and spoil your customers. I used to put lollipops in my packages. That's kind of the whole deal. I think I covered it all. This was how to sell your shit on Poshmark and Depop. I hope this was at least moderately helpful. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and good luck selling.